Hi, my name is Jason Riordan, BSO 204A. We're going to go over some salvage tarp rolling techniques. This is the first of several tarp rolling and folding techniques we're going to show you. The first one is what I would call the rolled salvage cover. Essentially, we're going to have our salvage cover laid out on the floor. We're going to find the middle point and pull it tight. Grabbing the ends, two members are going to fold it halfway, meeting at the middle point, and then we're going to repeat this process, folding the end in, trying to get all the air out. We're also then going to go the opposite side, fold this section in, grabbing the outside, and then repeating this process additional time. At this point, we can fold either side in on itself, and this creates a small salvage cover for us. We have two options from this point. We can roll all the way down to one side, or we could roll both sides meeting in the middle. This is going to be the preferred method, which allows you to deploy this on the center high portion of our stacked furniture and personal belongings. As we roll, you'll see we kind of build up some air. We're going to show you a technique later to eliminate this problem with the air. This is going to be the deployment of our rolled salvage cover. It's a 1 or 2 member deployment. We'll start high on our furniture stack and we can roll out the ends. At this point, if you have 2 members, you're going to want to pull tight so you can unfold your tarp. This will reveal the inside, which we will grab the exterior portion of the tarp. We're going to do what's called the balloon deployment. On the count of 3, Mike, Alan, and I will lift up, grab some air, and deploy the tarp over and around the furniture. This is going to be our second salvage cover folding technique. This is going to be the middle fold. We are currently at the same point as in the previous video with the rolled salvage cover. We folded the tarp in half. At this point, we're going to grab the ends and fold it in half lengthwise. We will do this and repeat this method an additional time, meeting in the middle. And at this point, we can continue to fold the kit on top of itself until it fits into an appropriate size to fit our salvage kit. This is going to be our middle fold, or our traditional fold deployment. This is probably what most of us learned in the academy. We're going to unfold this tarp so that it looks pretty much like it did on the ground. And at this point, we'll spread it out and do the balloon deployment like we previously did. An additional deployment we could do after getting to this point would be having the tarp on the side and essentially doing a similar balloon deployment but lifting it up and over. This third folding technique is going to be the one-sided accordion fold. It allows 1 or 2 members to run it out from one direction. I'm sure by now you're a little frustrated with some of the air that's being trapped inside the tarp. A push broom can help alleviate some of these problems. We're going to have 1 member stand on one end of the tarping. We're going to use this push broom and just essentially push the air out, creating a nice flat fold for us. After this, we're going to have both members go to one end of the tarp, and approximately 2 feet in, we will begin accordion folding, grabbing and pulling the tarp on top of itself until it's completely folded. At the end here, if need be, we can fold the whole stack in half an additional time to make it fit within the salvage cover. Deployment number 3 will be the one-sided accordion fold deployment. It is a 1 or 2 member deployment. You start at one end of our stacked furniture. Finding the end, we will grab and run it over our stack. We're now going to open both ends and find the outer portion, which again is located in the middle of the stack. We will do either a balloon deployment or a one-sided deployment and then dress our stack as needed.
Quick overview of your salvage kit. Every salvage kit should have at least one tarp, if not two. My recommendation would be have maybe a tarp and a floor runner or a hall runner, and some styrofoam blocks. Ideally 4, so we could put on one leg of each furniture, possibly up to 8 blocks, so you could do 2 sections. If you don't have blocks available, you can call for one of your firefighters and ask for some canned goods from the kitchen. Just kidding, maybe not something like this, but something like canned beans.
Captain Allen and I are going to demonstrate forming a water chute and some of its versatility. This would be for an above head leak, and the needed equipment would be ideally 2 equal length pike poles. In our scenario, those were not available, so we used a rake or a Boston hook and a New York hook. Starting from the outsides, you will want to roll the 2 hooks, keeping the tarp tight until you meet somewhere in the middle. The diameter can vary depending upon your need and whether or not this is going in a stairwell, out a window, or catching water from a sprinkler head. In our scenario, we will be placing this against a ladder, but as I said, it could be placed up against a wall or a piece of furniture. Typically, this will be on an attic ladder, which will be demonstrated later. However, we're utilizing an A-frame, which are carried on the MR apparatus. At the bottom, after we have it set up, we can direct our diking if we had to go out or down a stairwell.
One of the main aspects of salvage is going to be stopping the loss from water damage. Our primary objective will be to shut off the water in the structure, typically by going to the riser room and shutting off the sprinkler or whatever water is being activated and opening the main drain. Some other options would be finding a post-indicator valve or an OS&Y outside. In a scenario like this, maybe a sprinkler head was popped, you could use wedges or some of the other sprinkler tools that we have in our sprinkler kit. If that wasn't available or for some reason we had water draining and we couldn't get to it from a broken pipe, an alternative would be to use our water chute. We have it set up here on an attic ladder. However, you could use an A-frame ladder of the homeowners. You could prop it up against the wall or on the railing of a stairwell. Some options for you. So what we have here is we're using a 2.5-inch hose while our engine company is securing water. We have a shower head that's simulating either a broken pipe or a sprinkler head. And we're diverting our water out. Some options that we could use would be out a window would be ideal, but if that's too far away, we could divert it into a sink. Into a bathtub or into a toilet. In a worst case scenario, we could remove the toilet if we were above grade, like a high-rise or apartment, and we could use the actual drain underneath the toilet.
Ideally, if you had a long distance to go to remove water from a structure, for instance, if you were going down the stairs of a 2-story house or from an elevated position, we would ideally use multiple water chutes and tarps to accomplish this. But in a pinch, you could come up with some quick alternatives. For instance, we have our water chute here going into a 5-inch. This will likely only work on a stairwell, but if you had to move water some distance, this would be an option. Ideally, we would prefer to divert water out of a window or into a tub or sink drain, if possible. The water chute can be modified to deflect water out of a different area. If we were on a 2nd floor, we can set up our water chute to deflect water out of a window. If not possible, we would have to switch to a different technique. In this final video, we're going to join 2 tarps together. This scenario would be for long distances and typically for going downstairs because the joint will create a little bit of a hump. we fold over a portion of our original tarp, combine a second tarp meeting the end, and then roll itself back on itself. This will create a pretty strong secured connection that we could use to elevate down a stairwell and around bends if need be. Some other techniques we could do is utilize cones and other objects to help divert water around landings.
Another deployment that we can do is to deploy our salvage cover to the side of our stacked furniture and personal belongings. And instead of doing the balloon deployment, we're going to just deploy from the side. There'll be a scenario where we may need to catch a larger volume of water. In that scenario, we would want to make a catch basin. What we did here is we rolled 4 sides of a tarp to create a catch basin. Now this can only catch so much water because our sides are only rolled up a few inches. So we have an alternative scenario where we could use 2 ladders and a rubbish hook or a pike pole. This would allow us to catch a larger volume of water, and depending upon where we put our pike pole, we could change the quantity. This would only be in a scenario where a water chute wouldn't work and we would have a delay in shutting off the water system. Underneath here, essentially, we'll just show you what it looks like. Just a couple ladders and a rubbish hook. So we'll be discussing your new sprinkler bag. Depending upon which version, you may have an older bag or a newer looking bag, but some of your components in order to secure a broken sprinkler head or even a broken pipe is going to be expressed here. We have a couple options. We could have a broken pendant, so if there was physical damage, that may dictate which device we use, versus one that was activated based on fire or heat. For the broken pendants, we have our clamp device, which seats on the upper portion and can secure and be adjusted. This will fit most of our broken pendants, even our non-broken pendants. However, some of our devices are limited to a non-broken pendant. So this clamp here, the emergency shutoff, has a small notch, which you may not be able to see on the video, and a rubber gasket here that will fit in. And if we look at our pendant, not all pendants will have a notched screw. For instance, this one is smooth. It will still work. However, that notch is intended to seat. And then as we turn the wheel, it will expand and secure our opening, thus shutting down the water. And I won't demonstrate it, but it would be the same thing on this. This is just a larger size. Our wedges will always work, and as we remember, we're going to want to slide our wedges together. So see if I can do this with one hand. This is obviously kind of difficult and will be hard with water flowing, but essentially the intended purpose will be to create a seal as best we can until we can secure water. If we had a broken pendant or piping even, we can use gas plugs. So our new sprinkler bag should now have a gas plug, depending upon the size. So for instance, this is a much larger one, and we'll demonstrate this outside. But if you could imagine that was the size of the broken pendant, we would be able to insert this and expand our gas plug, thus sealing. And we'll demonstrate that on the appropriate side. I just don't want to break my prop at this time. Those most likely are going to be the ones we're using. There are some additional options that you may see out there. So this is a twofold. This is the quick fit. It has a rubber gasket, so the rubber side goes against your seal or your orifice, and then you're going to close this down, which will expand and secure it. But as you'll see, this will not fit in your smaller diameter sprinklers. This also has a plug that may or may not fit, again, limited based on its size. And the Neanderthal, this is for recessed sprinklers. However,
it won't work on a majority of them just based on the size of it as well. So this would be if you couldn't gain access. Another situation we may come across when attempting to use the clamp is that our sprinkler head is partially or fully recessed. At this time, we may need to displace the ceiling tile as well as displace the collar. As you can see, this had a collar down. Now we are able to gain access and fit our clamp that would fit this way on our device. This includes whether there was a housing or a cage or any other device that we may need to defeat in order to secure water to our sprinkler head.
Okay, now we're going to put it into practice. We have two of our newer members, and we've got our sprinkler props. So these guys are going to go head to head. Let's go! Adjust it all the way in. All the way in. All right, round two. Hopefully it doesn't break this time. Ready, go!
Broke my leg. Come on. Come on, bro.
Go to the next one.
I'll fix it for him.
Close.
There
There you go.
you go, bro.
That's good. Deployment number 3 can be a one-man or a two-person, one-person. Should we show them the broom?
Maybe on the next one. Ready?